Hi everyone, Gary once again here on the Fourth Officials YouTube channel following today's Old Firm derby at Parkhead, which saw Celtic run out at 3-0 winners in what was pretty much the same old story, what we're calling Groundhog Derby Day. Now, anyone that checked out my pre-match video will have seen that the team lineup was, as we were all calling for before the game, in terms of having Dujon Sterling and Connor Barron in the midfield area to try and combat a position that has been a massive problem for Rangers in the Old Firm games of the previous few years. Because we all felt that that was where this game was going to be won and lost, was in the midfield. That starting lineup was Jack Butland in goal, back four of James Tavernier, John Souttar, Robin Proper and Hefty, Connor Barron alongside Mo Diamande and Dujon Sterling in midfield, with Václav Černý on the right-hand side, Rabbi Matondo on the left, and Cyril Dessers through the middle. And got to be honest, the first 10 minutes, Rangers started very well, very positive in the faces of Celtic with the high press, getting in and about the park and the field without really creating too many clear-cut opportunities. They had a sniff at goal in the first minute where Robin Proper had a header that went right across the face of goal. If they'd managed to pick out a Rangers player at the back post, then it could have been a different story. And then a gilt-edged opportunity for Rabbi Matondo, who may well have been just slightly offside, but despite that, he's got to get that header from a few yards out on target. His header goes wide. And almost from that point on, Celtic then managed to kind of grab the hold of the game and looked as if they were going to get the opening goal. Very marginal offside. Nicholas Kuhn with the breakaway in behind. Hefty puts the cross in for Kyogo, who has a tap in at goal we've seen so many times with the ball flashed across the Rangers backline, but as I say, Kuhn just slightly offside and the goal was ruled out. But Rangers didn't heed the warning, and after 17 minutes it was 1-0 for good, and this time it was Dyson Maeda who capitalised on another Rangers defensive error. Rabbi Matondo failing to track a run from Alistair Johnson, who got to the byline. He cuts it back, Robin Proper slips, doesn't get there. James Tavernier is caught sleeping at the back post, and Dyson Maeda is there to slide it home under the body of Jack Butland, who possibly could have felt as if he may well have done a little bit better for that one. At that point, Celtic's tails are up, they're flying, Rangers are starting to look very ragged at the back, and almost any time that Celtic were starting to kind of drive forward, they were looking a threat, as Rangers were looking all the more unorganised at the back, whether it was in behind Hefty, whether it was in behind James Tavernier, whether it was Robin Proper looking a bit hesitant. They just didn't appear to be able to cope with the pace and power of Celtic's attack, and the midfield was getting more and more overrun. Connor Barron doing his best in there, but it wasn't the best performance from Mo Diamande in that first half. Perhaps hampered a little bit by the fact that he picked up an early booking for a kind of off-the-ball incident with Alistair Johnson. It certainly seemed to curb his game because he wasn't involved pretty much after that point. And Celtic seemed to have the extra man in there through the midfield area, and just nothing was sticking up top, despite Černý trying hard. Dessers wasn't really involved, and Rabbi Matondo wasn't able to replicate some of his good form from last weekend against Ross County, to the point where he then went down and had to be replaced with Ross McCausland coming on for the young Welsh winger. And that's what we get from Rabbi Matondo. He looks great in flashes, then picks up a muscle injury and is out for 2 or 3 games. So yeah, again, points to what we were talking about during the week in terms of the transfer window, and Rangers certainly were looking at bringing in another wide player, Samuel Edozie. We knew was of interest, but that deal wasn't done. Rangers went with what they've got, and obviously now Rabbi Matondo picked up an injury, and whether that's enough to rule him out of going away for international duty with Wales, we will wait and see. Just before half-time, Celtic were 2 ahead, and this one, yet again, multiple points of failure in terms of the Rangers backline. Kyogo with a shot from distance, Jack Butland's positioning way too much to the other side. Not a great deal of power on Kyogo's shot, but it's well placed into corner. Butland seems to go down in instalments, doesn't get near it, and it's 2-0 right on half-time. And I think even at that point, the vast majority of onlookers watching on would have thought, nah, this isn't happening today. Once again, too many times that Kyogo in this fixture stands up and is counted, and Rangers weren't able to match that from him today. A real desire from him to get involved in the second half. There was one occasion where he tracks back to cut down a Rangers attack, and that's in stark contrast to a similar situation where James Tavernier gets robbed of the ball and then starts just jogging backwards, despite the fact that Maeda is on the charge and running at the Rangers backline. It just wasn't a great body language performance from Rangers in the second half. Managed to keep the score down to a point, but without really looking incredibly threatening, apart from one chance on the 60-minute mark where Cyril Dessers gets the break of the ball, is clean through one-on-one with Kasper Schmeichel, and he fluffs his lines with a very weak shot straight down Kasper Schmeichel's throat, and it's a very simple save for him to make. And that would have been huge at that point for Rangers to get back in it with half an hour to play at 2-1 and give them something to get into the game. But then Celtic were able just to carry on. They were able to blood some of their new signings off the bench. Arnie Ingles, £11 million worth, coming on for Paulo Bernardo, Luke McCowan coming on, and Adam Maeda coming on as well. So they had quality that they could bring in off the bench. And then just with about 50 minutes to go, it's 3-0, and it's Kyogo and McGregor was given acres of space on the edge of the Rangers box. He hits a shot that takes quite a wicked deflection off to Jon Sterling and loops into the kind of top corner. Good strike from McGregor, but he's given far too much time to take the shot. Ross McCausland guilty of giving the ball away far too easily, and McGregor had all the time in the world to pick his spot and have the shot, and it's at 3-0 at that point. Game's done. Rangers then make a couple of changes. They're able to bring on Nico Rashkin and give Hamza Igaman his Rangers debut. Quite why he's thrown in with 15 minutes to go in this fixture, where we've not seen any minutes from him at all. Slightly unfair to the young Moroccan, but he's a player for the future. But the game then kind of petered out and it finished 3-0 to Celtic. One real good opportunity in the closing minutes for Ross McCausland, where he has a shot straight at Kasper Schmeichel, who spreads himself really, really well to make the save. And John Souttar has a header that hits off the outside of the post, but I think the referee, John Beaton, had given a foul against Souttar anyway, but it just wasn't a good day at the office. And once again, Rangers come up on the wrong end of this fixture. And everything we were saying in the build-up to the game about having to match the intensity, having to match the running, having to match the press, but all too often we saw the exact same downfalls of befit Rangers in this game over the last 3 or 4 seasons. That's now 3 wins and 20 in this fixture over the last 5 years. Nowhere near good enough. Clement hasn't managed to get a victory in his first 5 games against them now. Worst run for any Rangers manager, not been able to give him a bloody nose, and it's just desperately disappointing. And once again, we find ourselves short going into now an international break. We're now 5 points off the pace at the top of the table after just 4 games. Not just 5 points behind Celtic, but also 5 points behind Aberdeen, who have had a perfect start to the season, albeit with slightly favourable fixtures. But there's a job on for Rangers to turn this round and get themselves back into the race. And we will give you full coverage of the game and the aftermath on our Patreon channel. Myself, Cameron McIver, and Will Reid giving you the full breakdown. That will be available to our subscribers after it is recorded this evening. That will do us on this one. A very big thank you for you all for watching. I'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.